everybody, welcome to the Successful Showgirl. My name is Kitty and today we're talking about fee setting as part of our Motivational March month of free coaching. So, yesterday I asked you to go away and think about what your budget is, what is your income every month and what are your expenses, okay? That's because there's two ways I set fees, okay? So the first way would be looking at the general industry rates and pricing myself in line with those rates, okay? So a lot of you guys are burlesque performers. It's really difficult for burlesque performers to set their rates. Unfortunately, there's no industry minimum standard for burlesque. So if you were doing something like circus or professional dancer or whatever, there are industry minimums. For burlesque, there isn't. You kind of have to play it by ear and figure out where you are within the industry and also what the average industry rates are in your area. So that's going to be very, very different from the country that you're in, from the area that you're in. It's going to be dependent on your skill set. It's going to be dependent on your quality of your acts, how polished they are, how visible you are, so therefore how much of a following have you got. All those things affect rates, and that's why it makes it really difficult for performers to actually put a fee to their act, because there is no like rule. There's nothing where I can say to you guys, this is the amount you should be charging for burlesque. It's different for things like aerial. If you're an aerial performer, in the UK, you should be charging like a bare minimum of $250 for 1 to 2 acts. I would not be doing aerial for any less than that. But again, if it was like specialist aerial and it was something like, let's say aerial chains, or you've got a specialist prop or something like that, then again, I would be charging more. If you're doing something like fire, again, I wouldn't be charging anything less than 200. I wouldn't be charging anything less than 250 if I'm doing any breathing. They would be the absolute bare minimum rates that I would be charging. And that's what I would be expecting to pay somebody if I was booking them as part of my agency. Stilt walking, I wouldn't be expecting anyone to be doing that for anything less than 180. If they're doing it with another skill, then obviously it's going to be more. Those kind of specialty skills should be charging those kind of rates, and that's because they're dangerous skills. You shouldn't be performing those skills in public as a paid performer if you're not competent in them. So if you're not competent in fire, you've got no fire safety understanding, then obviously you shouldn't be doing it, okay? But if you have, and you are skilled in it, and you've been trained in fire safety, and you understand all the things that come with it, then yeah, you should be charging like a good rate, like that is the rate that you should be charging, because you've got more expensive insurance, you've got more expensive props, you've got to think about the risk that's involved and things like that. The same with your aerial stuff. You have to know how to rig your equipment, or you might be using specialist rigs or specialist equipment like a lollipop or something like that that costs a lot of money. Therefore, your rates are more expensive than something like dance or something like burlesque. That is just a general rule. Your insurance is going to be more expensive for anything like that as well. And then obviously the more specialist something is, the more expensive the cover is going to be. So therefore, and the more training you've put in, like to do something like aerial takes a lot more training than to do something like dance. And yes, you can spend years training as a dancer. I'm not belittling that, because I am a professional dancer. That is my genre. But to do something to that level, it does take a lot more training. It costs a lot more money. The insurance costs are more. All those things have to be taken into consideration. So if you're doing something specialist, one, make sure you're only doing it if you're really competent in it. If you're not really competent in it, you need to make sure that you're getting as much rehearsal in as possible before you start looking for paid shows, okay? And then secondly, you want to be making sure you're charging those minimum fees, because one, you don't want to be undercutting people. Two, you don't want to be devaluing the industry. Three, there's a lot of cost incurred with those things, so please make sure that you are doing that properly, okay? Oh, Ocean's just said, for an hour's performance, I charge $130. So, like, you're doing dance, aren't you, or burlesque? An hour is a lot, okay? So, for me, if I was doing an hour's worth of work, I would be expecting a lot more than that. But you're new to the industry, Ocean, so therefore, $130, you're going into care homes, you're doing it in the daytime. So again, it's all different. If I was offering an hour's worth of a show to a nightclub or a corporate event, I'd be charging like 5 times as much as that. But you're getting daytime work for doing that, going into care homes and providing a new service. So therefore, yeah, it's probably going to be cheaper than if you were doing it for another kind of event. Does that make sense? Like, yeah, yeah, my burlesque in care homes, it's 3 acts, perfect, okay? So, therefore, you're always going to charge a bit less because it's daytime stuff. If you're a singer and you work in care homes, you always charge a little bit less because it's daytime work and it's hard to get daytime work as a performer. But the prime time work, Friday and Saturday night, is always more expensive. In the same way that if you work on Halloween or New Year's Eve or Christmas or something like that, my rates are always more expensive for those times as well. Yeah, because it's a prime time. So my rates for New Year's Eve are double, always, at least. Yeah. So just want you to bear that in mind. So let's come back to burlesque. If you're working the general burlesque circuit in the UK, you're going to be looking at, as a newer performer, somebody who's got, and I'm talking about people with good acts here, like, just because you decide you're going to be a professional performer doesn't mean that you can not have high quality acts. Even if you're a new performer, your acts need to be good quality to be getting paid. In the same way that if I'm a website designer, if I'm offering website design, but I'm not doing a good job of it, then I'm not going to be paid for it. So if you're looking for paid jobs, you really need to start getting these acts polished. You need to think about polishing your costumes. You need to think about all the things that I keep talking about, the professionalism around it, having risk assessments, having insurance, having, what are the other things? All your tech stuff all together and all that jazz. So coming in as a newer performer that's got all that stuff together and you're starting to get more experience and you're starting to polish these acts up, I'd be looking at 50 to 80 quid for 1 to 2 acts. That's what I would pay someone who is a new performer who's only done a couple of unpaid performances. Once somebody's been performing for a little bit, I don't think it matters how long, time-wise. I think it matters, 1, the quality of your act, and 2, your experience and how well you're making a name for yourself in the industry. To me, that's a lot more important than, oh, they've been doing it 2 years. Like, sorry, I don't know why, but my internet keeps going in and out. It's driving up the wall. So I don't think that really matters. What does matter is your skill set, the quality of your act, how polished it is, and all that stuff. So newer performers, 50 to 80. And then I would say people who've been doing it a little bit, they've got all their shit together now, they're emailing me properly with good quality acts, they're doing all the things that they should be doing, they know how to invoice, they've got risk assessments, they're doing all the proper stuff. Then I'm going to be paying those people like maybe 100, 120, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to be thinking about making sure that they're getting a little bit more than the people that are newer, all right? Then, when I'm looking at headliners, I'm thinking like 150 to 250, if not more. I mean, if there's someone amazing, they're going to be getting paid even more than that. But again, all those things are dependent on, 1, how much of a following that person has. Like, you can be a headliner, Dita Von Teese, or you can be a headliner, the average headliner. Dita Von Teese is obviously going to cost way more than your average headline act. Not because she's better, but she just has a bigger following, so therefore she's going to generate more ticket sales for any of your events. That's just common sense. So we've got to be realistic about when we're booking people. how much that's going to generate for us as a producer or an agent in ticket sales or in client fees or whatever, and that's then getting passed on to you guys. So again, there's no finite rule. People are gonna, if I was running like a small scale event, then it's more likely to be 150. But if I'm running a large scale event like my conference, it's more going to be at the 250 end of the scale, because I've got more money to play with. It's a giant event with lots of budget behind it. If it was just like a general show where people are paying like 25 quid a ticket, I've not got as much money to play with. Does that make sense? And also for my conference, it's a dinner show. So that means like there's like a limited number of acts. It's not like a full show. So if it was a full show, I'd probably have like 5, 6, 7 acts doing 2 acts each. I'm paying a host and all those other things as well. At my dinner show, I have like 3 to 4 acts, maybe sometimes a little bit more, but there's less people within it. Does that make sense? So, and they only do 1 act as well. So there's an act before the show starts, before the dinner, sorry. Then there's an act with the starter. Then there's an act with the main. Then there's an act with the dessert. There might be an act after. Yeah, we now have a band afterwards, but I never used to do that. That's something that's new. So that's only been something that I've been able to do as we've sold more tickets. So now that we sell more tickets, I can afford to put a band on afterwards, but we didn't have that the past few years. So you're at the mercy really of the kind of shows that you're doing, what the ticket sales are generating, also what the values of the person who's putting on the show. A lot of people in this industry still have the values of that if you've not been performing 2 years, then you don't deserve a certain level of payment. That's completely the opposite of my values. I think if you've got high quality acts, it shouldn't matter if you started like yesterday. If your acts are up to scratch, you've got great costumes, you've got good following, then why should you not get paid the same? Like, it's going to depend on multiple factors, okay? So first of all, I'm giving you the idea with general rates there, that they will be the rates that I would pay, but they're not set in stone. So just want you to bear that in mind. I don't want you to think, Kitty said I've got to charge this amount. You don't, okay? You do what you want to do. The best way is to ask in groups, like the free coaching group. Ask in there. Say, I live in this area. This kind of performer, what kind of rates are people charging? You can even put a video of you and say, what would you pay for this act? And people will respond. Yeah, you can ask questions. You can ask in my free coaching group because it's a safe space. But there's also multiple other performing groups that you can ask in. If you're a US person, Kristen has got a really good group called the Performers Guide, and you can ask about rates from state to state there. Like, ask in these groups. There's people from multiple countries across the world in both my group and both Kristen's group. You can ask in there and people will volunteer the answers for you, but just make sure you put the location so that people can be helpful, because there's no point just asking generically because it's going to differ from place to place, okay? Another way that I set my fees as well, so I don't set my fees going off the industry standards anymore. I set my fees off what I need to generate per gig for it to be worthwhile and to pay all my bills. So that's why yesterday I asked you to go away and work out your expenses. And I teach this in depth in the Showgirl Success Strategy course. So if you've got that course, then this is something that I teach in depth. We go through the maths and everything like that. But I just want you to be aware of it for now. So when I'm setting my fees, I'll think, right, I've got this new act. I want to generate, if I'm performing, £1,000 a month, but I can only do 3 gigs a month because I'm a mum. So that means I have to divide £1,000 by 3, and that will be my fee for that act. Yeah. So let's say I decide, right, I'm gonna start performing a little bit more, but I want to be making at least £1,000 if I'm going to be away from my kid. Yeah. So then I'm going to say, right, well, she's at her dad's twice a month on a weekend. So that gives me Friday and Saturday every single month, 2 times. So that's 4 nights that I can perform. But I also want, I'm like overworking all the time now. I'm older, I've done it all. Like I have another income stream as well, so I don't have to work constantly. So I'm probably going to say, right, actually, I don't want to work all of those. I probably want to work like maybe 3 nights maximum, and that's how I'm going. And then I'm going to divide that £1,000. That's how I'm going to come to that decision. If you're someone who wants to be busy and wants to be working every single weekend, then I'm going to think, right, well, there's Friday and Saturday, 4 times in a month. Sometimes there's more, but let's go with the minimum. That's 8 weekends minimum. If you get any midweek gigs, then great, because midweek gigs are harder to come by, but that doesn't mean they're not there. But let's go with the minimum amount that we could get booked for. Being booked every Friday and Saturday is completely reasonable, and I want to make £2,000 a month because I'm going to go full time as a performer. So that means I've got to divide £2,000 by 8. What does that give me? £250 a gig. So that's how much I have to be earning. And then you've got to decide if that's realistic for your skill set. For me, that's realistic for my skill set, because I'll just say, right, I'm not doing any general burlesque, I'm not doing any dance stuff, I'm only going to do fire breathing because I know I can get that amount for that. I'm only going to do aerial because I know I can get that amount for that. I know I'm only going to do martini glass because I can get over that £250 for that. And I might come up with like some other kind of option. I'm only going to do singing sets. I can easily get £250 for a singing set on a Friday, Saturday night. Does that make sense? Yeah? You've got to work out what your skill set is. If you've got a skill set where you're multi-skilled, even better, because it gives you more options to pick and choose. It gives you more option to up your fees. If you've only got the skill set of dance or burlesque, yeah, if you create some absolute banging act, or you create like Ocean has, a mini show, then again, you've got the option to make more money, but you've got to be business savvy about it. Okay? So you've got to think, is this going to be something that people are going to pay for, and can I charge that amount? And that is something that you've got to keep weighing up. Like my fees all the time, I'm weighing up. Is somebody going to pay this money? Or mostly now, I'm like, am I undercharging now? Should I put that fee up? But that's going to depend on where you are in your career. What if you've got a financial stability elsewhere, you've got a full-time job, or you've got some kind of passive income. Obviously, I've got a passive income from multiple businesses now, so therefore I can say, oh, can't be arsed working on Friday night if it's only £200. Yeah, but not everybody has that luxury if they're starting out as a new performer and they're wanting to go full-time as a performer. So again, it's like, how long is a piece of string? You've got to figure out what's important to you, what you want from your career, how much you want to be working, and also where you fit within the industry and what everybody else is charging that's similar to you to help you do your fees. Does that make sense? I go through that in like loads and loads of in-depth detail. So if you've got the strategy course, if you do that module, we really, really go into depth about that kind of stuff. But that's just a general overview of fees, yeah? If you emailed me as a producer and said, this is how much I want for this, and I thought I couldn't afford it, or it was too expensive for what you were charging, I would just offer you that information. I wouldn't say it in a nasty way. I'd probably say something along the lines of, I love your act, but I think that fee is a little above the industry rate. But vice versa, if I thought your fee was too low, I would also say, I think you're undercharging. I tell this story all the time about how I had somebody, I asked them if they could do a martini glass job for me because I was pregnant at the time and I couldn't go and do it, so I was going to take the booking and take a commission. And I asked this person, their amazing martini glass performer, what they were charging, and the fee that they told me, and they had been doing this martini glass act for ages, and they're fantastic. It is polished, it's amazing, they look incredible, and the fee that they gave me was just so low. I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't believe, one, that producers had been paying such a low fee and not pointing out that was not an acceptable fee. And yeah, my mind was just blown. So I basically said to this person, no, you're not going to do it for that fee. This is the fee that I pay, at least 250 quid while it's the first one, and then after that we'll go up from there. Because that is just common sense to me. I don't want to be underpaying people, but obviously I don't want to overpay people when I can get a better or same quality act for less. So we should be doing that as producers, and I will always do that. And I know so many other producers that will do that as well. They will tell you that you're undercharging, or they will tell you that you're overcharging. So please don't worry when you send your stuff off that people are just not going to book you because of the fee that you've given. There's lots of reasons why we don't book people, and there's lots of reasons other than your price as to why we do. I don't book people off who's the cheapest. When I'm booking the conference, I really don't even look at what someone's charging me. I look at the quality of the acts, I look at the following that they have, I look at whether they can provide a workshop as well, I look at the value that they bring, I look at do they express the same values as my company expresses. I don't book anybody who doesn't seem to hold the value of kindness over competition, who doesn't have like a good reputation, who doesn't treat people nicely. I don't book people like that. So it doesn't matter even if they were like super cheap, I just wouldn't book them. I only book people that are high quality performers who treat people nicely, who have a good reputation. But also, like, my point is the fee is the last thing on my mind because I've got a budget, so it's irrelevant really, unless they're going to charge me something stupid. But most professional performers aren't going to do that, are they? They're going to charge what they charge, and I personally think the majority of what people charge is fair, so I'm just going to pay it. Does that make sense? So don't want you to get too bogged down that if you give a fee, people are going to be like, oh my god, no. There'll be some dicks that will do that, but please just ignore those people. Like, anybody who's worth working with will tell you that they think that's like slightly overpriced, but they'd love to have your act. Would you potentially do it for X amount? And you can say yes or no. Yeah, don't worry too much about the kind of people who would bash you for putting a fee that's wrong, particularly if you're a new performer. Like, anybody that you're working for as a new performer should be guiding you and not putting you down. So if that happens to you, then you just dodged a bullet, because you don't really want to be working with those kind of people. You want to be working with people who are going to help you, lift you up, build you up, boost your confidence. Like, that is what it's all about. All right? Okay, I've whittled on there for ages. I don't know why. I just banged on. But I hope that was helpful. Today, I just want you to go away and have a little think about, for each act that you've got, what is going to be your minimum fee that you would take, and what is going to be the maximum that you would like, okay? And then the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle, isn't it? Yeah, we don't want to always be working for the minimum, but we're not always going to get our maximum either. Yeah, as a newer performer, if you want to be getting work, you're not always going to get your maximum, but you do need to know what's the lowest you'll go. Okay, so that is your job today. Post them in the comments and tell us where you are in the country. Thank you to Ocean for sharing her fees today. I think in this industry, fees are something that people are really weird and quiet about and don't speak about, and that does nobody any favours. The more we share what we charge, what we pay, who we're paying what to, like, the easier it's going to be for us all to come together as an industry and stop undercutting each other, to stop undercharging other people, and that can only make the industry better. All right, I hope you all have a lovely weekend. Next week, I'm going to be talking more about people who teach classes, or how to create multiple income streams as a performer. So we're going to start with dance teaching, or circus teaching, or whatever your genre is, how to set up classes, how to get more people in, what we should be charging, all those kind of things. and then we're going to move into other potential ways of earning money as a performer from your skills other than just doing gigs. All right, everyone. Hope you have a great time over the weekend. I'll see you soon. Bye.